Hi everyone, welcome back to KW Ross Patterns. In this tutorial, I am going to discuss about gathers, certain things that you will need when you need to create gathers in your construction of a garment. So I recommend you getting a high mark thread, and this is what it looks like. It is stronger than the regular thread, so you need to put this in the bobbin thread, use it as your bobbin thread, so that when you're pulling your gathers or creating your gathers, the thread is not likely to break. If you use the regular thread that you're using for stitching the garment together, the cotton thread, it will likely to break when you're pulling up your gathers. So you need your high mark thread to start with. The next thing that you need to know also is that when you are creating the stitches for the gathers, I would recommend 2 rows of stitching for the gathers. One can be 3/8 of an inch away from the edge, and the other will be 5/8 of an inch. So when you're sewing now, you go in between with your regular thread for your 1/2 inch seam allowance. Another thing that I'll suggest also is that if you notice here, I started, let's say for instance here, and I come down here and I turn and continue on the other side. It is better that way, because when you pull your gathering thread up, right, you notice also that you'll have this here, and then you won't have, if you do it this way, you're likely to get rid of the possibility of one of the threads pulling out at the other end, unless you are going to tie the thread, both loose threads on the other end. Okay, so unless you're going to tie both loose threads on the other end, or if you're going to do a situation where you might have the loose end, and I'm showing it to you. If you have a loose thread, like say for here, on the other end, if you did not turn like this here, then what I suggest you do, you just hold it like this and you wrap it around. Hold it like this, put a pin there, so you have a pin there, hold it like this and wrap it around the pin. All right, so that when you are evenly distributing your gather, these 2 threads are not going to come out. Okay, so that's a good way to stop that from happening if you did not do this and turn it right there. Now the next thing that you need to do also is that when you're stitching, make sure that your right side of the fabric is facing up like this, right? And that's your stitch line here, as you notice, and your bobbin thread, which is your high mark, is on the wrong side of the fabric. Because if you don't do that, when you are ready to attach your garment to the other piece, you will run in a situation with this, where I'm going to show it to you. This is a top this is a top thread, right? And because you have the high mark under the bottom, it's harder to pull evenly because you have it underneath there. If you want it to pull properly, I'll suggest the proper way is to have the high mark showing on the wrong side. So the high mark should be on the wrong side showing, and then when you have the 2 rows here, you're going to evenly distribute your gathers, and you're going to stitch in between these 2 lines. Now another thing I'm going to show you also is the fact that this is an example of just 1 row of stitching. All right, 1 row of gathering stitch. All right, so if you notice here is 1 row, and what I did, I had to, the white is a high mark, I had to go a little bit below that for my regular stitching when I'm joining the seams together. I must tell you, when you use this method with just 1 row and not the 2 rows, as you're stitching along, you're going to have to evenly distribute it as you're going along. And also, as you're stitching along like this, you have to take your time as you're pushing it away, holding down either side, so that it's laying flat and not buckling up. And then you have to constantly stop in to do that, or pausing to do that. Whereas if you just have the 2 rows, as I have here, and this is my 2 rows, and I'm stitching, so you have it down flat here, and I'm stitching along, it's already evenly distributed. I'm just concentrating on going in between, watching my seam my seam guide here on my feed, and it's going to be 1/2 inch away from the edge. So using 2 rows is for 2 reasons: even distribution and also better ease in stitching correctly. You're going in between the 2 rows as opposed to having to stop. Trust me, it is very tedious. It takes more time when you're using just 1 row, and it's not an even distribution in that essence. Now, another thing I must tell you, and I should have said it at the beginning, when you're doing the stitches for the gathers, creating those, you need to change the dial on your machine from 3 to 4, because you need the stitch length to be longer, so that it's ease when you are pulling the high mark for that. Okay, so you need the stitch length to be longer in that sense, so you can evenly pull it up. All right, so stitch length should be longer. Change it from 3 to 4, and notice it's easier when you're pulling pulling like this. And as stated before, this, please don't make this mistake. This is no. You need to be able to see the high mark on top, as I show you here in this situation. Okay, all right, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share my videos with others so they can learn. See you soon. Bye now.